High Court's dismissal of an urgent application for an interim interdict against the planned seismic survey on Friday. Protesters in Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape braved the inclement weather to make their voices heard and to be seen. The protesters are very concerned about the possible damage to the environment that the seismic survey on the Wild Coast can do.
I think Shell is a consumer-based company. Its consumers are telling it that they don't like what they're doing. The shareholders are obviously sensitive to consumer beliefs and feelings. I think they should be paying attention to this. So we've had about 300 people come out today. This in solidarity with what's happening in the Wild Coast and the Wild Coast communities. On a day like this, to get 300 people out, I tell you that that's a very rare thing. People along the coast care about the coast, and you're upsetting a whole bunch of people. So as a brand and as a corporate, I would be suggesting that you rethink your investment strategies and just exactly what you're doing. The key thing is that the energy agencies have already told us that we have enough oil and gas reserves, enough. We don't need more, so this is entirely speculative. We don't know that there is oil and gas there. We don't know that it will be needed in 10 to 15 years. We know that we have solar and wind energy in abundance, that if we invested the money in, that we would be able to replace the coal that's going. And we also know that there is an impact on the ecosystem, and it starts from the zooplankton. We know that it kills zooplankton. Now that's the start of the food chain. What happens to that entire food chain when you do that? And the real thing is the local communities that fish out of the sea. They do so sustainably. The big corporates don't do that sustainably. And we're saying, hey guys, it's time to pay attention to the guys in the Wild Coast. So the Gqeberha Crisis Committee, those are the guys at Gqeberha community. You have Sunrail on the one side trying to take away the land, and now you have Shell on the other side trying to take away the sea. What is this community to do? And that's the kind of thing that we're just saying, hey, Shell, this is enough. Are you a good corporate citizen? If you are, then you should be paying attention to three priorities. One is profit, we understand it, but the other one is people, and the other one is planet. You can't do a business these days without those three. And clearly in this instance, Shell is putting profit ahead of people and planet, and they are putting principle ahead of profit. Profit ahead of principle.
Shell is adamant, saying that they can do this responsibly and sustainably. Do you believe that's possible?
No, not at all. So what Shell are doing is that they're playing within the parameters of the law. They have a permit. The interdict wasn't granted. They have the right to do this exercise, but they're not playing within the parameters of the planet. And people understand that, and this is how change takes place, is that people come out on a day like today and they say to the corporate decision makers, hey, you guys that are comfortable in your boardrooms, it's time we went out and saw the actual damage that you're doing. Now, the problem in the sea is that it's a highly complex environment. Now, you're firing, and the interesting thing about Shell is that they talk about one air gun. They don't talk about the fact that there's over 100 air guns that go off every 5 to 10 seconds, 24/7 for 5 months. Now, you want to tell us that has no impact or has a negligible impact, as which the consultants have said. We say we don't believe that. Your local fishermen don't believe it. They understand the sea much better than any scientist or any consultant, and we need to start listening to those communities. So really, Shell are playing within the limits of what the law allows them and the limits of what they can afford in terms of the advocates and their PR campaigns and that, but they're actually not being totally honest with the public in the sense of explaining to the public what the full exercise is. And the key thing that the Gqeberha community is going to raise is that they don't have environmental authorization. And they don't have the environmental authorization because there was a window in the legislation that allowed them to do this. They've renewed this permit twice. Why are they allowed to renew the permit without an environmental authorization? That environmental authorization is now in place. Why would you not, as a good corporate citizen, follow the full process? they're not following the full process, go and study it. Tell us that you've done the studies. Tell us how far that sound travels underwater. We know from other places that it's situation dependent. So in cold water it travels further, in warm water not so far. So what are the temperatures here? How does the Gallus current impact this? They don't know that. They've just done a desktop 3 studies briefly, and okay, no, it's cool, because we've done this before, now it's cool, so I mean, what murderer gets away on that principle that other people have murdered? You don't do that. You look at every individual case and you say, in this micro environment, what will the impact be of this activity? And they haven't done that. And if they were good corporate citizens, they'd acknowledge that, they'd stop the exercise, they'd do the full exercise, and then decide the matter.
That report from Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape. Well, the SACP has briefed the media following their plenary